There was nothing more exhilarating than sneaking out of school. Do you remember the adrenaline you'd feel trying to avoid the teachers? We all have, sneaking out of school for the first time. My high school was facing a sneaking out epidemic, and it was all their fault. This all started on the first day, back in 10th grade, when they were handing out schedules. While everyone was hoping they had classes with their friends, a few of us had noticed that our school had made a change to their school schedule that was straight up goofy. Our schedules looked like this. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays were the long days, with 9 periods. Those were normal. However, the change came on the shorter days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, where they made the alternate lunch period the last period. So all the kids, including myself, who got the alternate lunch period, were asking, I wonder if I could leave early. So some kids tried to test this. There are many types of kids who try to sneak out of school, and they all existed within my 6th period digital arts class. First, we have the walkouts. I remember this kid, we'll call him Casey. After our digital arts class had ended, when walking to the cafeteria, he had always tried to take advantage of the fact that the school lobby was always crowded during the intermission between periods, and tried slipping out of the entrance during the chaos. And it worked some of the time, as he was the first person that actually got to sneak out. But it didn't take our assistant principal and the school staff to catch on to his antics and began blocking and tossing him back into the cafeteria like Mr. Krabs does to Plankton when they notice he tried to escape. Next up, we have the people who say they're going to sneak out but don't. You don't know how many kids who gassed themselves up saying that they were going to leave after 6th period had ended, but when their eyes made contact with the school lobby, they said nope and dipped straight to the cafeteria. But they weren't even the worst who tried to leave, as the absolute worst kids who tried to sneak out were the dropouts. You know, the kids that somehow showed up to school over 2 hours late, and when they did absolutely nothing the whole time, having grades lower than Mater on the road. As soon as the opportunity to leave school arises, they're taking it, no matter what. There was this one kid, we'll call him Carl, who one day, when I was coming home on the bus on a Wednesday, I casually not only spotted him, but 2 other kids from my high school just casually walking around in my neighborhood on that day. Like, what are you even doing? I understand that school sucks, but you're going to be in there even longer if you continue to do that. Following that, we have the regular kids, which made up the majority of us, including me and my friends. I would describe us to be the most reserved about this. The kids who thought about escaping but tried to wait to see if our school would change up the rules, because with the way how they set up our schedule, we were losing 2 hours a week on average, stuck in school, and nobody wanted that. And what followed that was the creation of the next type that could not wait and ended up screwing us all, because then we would have the straight up goofy sneakers. And there's one kid in particular who I'm thinking of that we'll call Edwards, who one day during the 3rd month of school, our science teacher was taking each of her 4 classes to a trip to a science lab on different days. And the classes would always arrive back at school during 7th period, and my class was the final one to go. Edwards, after finishing digital art on that Thursday, had completely forgotten that we were going on a trip, and when he tried to escape, he never expected what came next. He came face to face with not just my science teacher, but all 30 of us, as you could see the fear in his face as he tried to put up his hoodie over his face, protecting himself, trying to hide his identity, while our science teacher had called out his name while he was passing us all, as if we could not see him. And some of the kids in our class, as he passed them, gave him the first asleep of the sleepover treatment, just to scare him even more, as he managed to escape. As the next day in school, he got pulled out of class and got served with detention, followed by a lecture from the school staff. None of the students were happy about the schedule we had, so on the following Tuesday, we went to the cafeteria after the school caught Casey and a few others trying to skip again. Me and the boys went to the assistant principal, who was there with us, about why can't we just leave after 6th period, and the response she gave us was just baffling.
The reason is because we have to collect a certain amount of school hours, and that leads to us getting a certain amount of funding, so we legally have to keep you here.
First of all, none of what you just said made any sense. Who cares about school hours if we're not doing anything with them? And what made it worse is that they'd made a rule that the 11th and 12th graders could leave the building to buy lunch elsewhere, so things made even less sense. The school staff would tell us that they knew the situation sucked, but they could not let us leave, and they were going to take extra measures now to ensure that we couldn't leave the building before lunch period had ended on Tuesdays and Thursdays. When I got home later that day, I even told my family about this, and they had the same reaction. Why can't you leave early? And you might be saying, things can't get worse, can they? The next day on Wednesday, my high school had made a startling announcement that our school had requested both security and school staff to be more alert, watching the school lobby, and watch if the 9th and 10th graders were leaving the building. And all the kids who tried to escape in the past were devastated after hearing this information. Everyone at the lunch table thought it was going to be impossible to escape on Tuesdays and Thursdays now, but not all hope was lost, as our high school made one single mistake. During their announcement on that day, their full statement was,
During 7th period lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays, only 11th and 12th graders will be allowed to leave the building and come back for lunch. 11th and 12th graders will now be required to sign out and sign in at the entrance in order to leave. If you don't, security will not allow you to leave. I repeat, only 11th and 12th graders will be allowed to leave the building for lunch. Thank you.
We'll see about that. Now we have to talk about the plan. Me and two friends, Carlos and Lee we'll call them, made a foolproof plan in order to leave the building. Once our 6th period digital arts class had ended, we would then work our way to the lobby, but before we would leave, we would then space ourselves out, not to draw any attention from the school staff and the security guards. And since the security guards don't know who we are, they aren't going to stop us. With that, we would then walk to the desk and pretend to sign ourselves out before walking past security and leaving the building. But there would be some challenges that we found coming up with this plan. First of all, there's no possible way for us to predict the exact people who in the lobby will be. If one of our very strict and very angry English teachers just decides to sit in the chair watching who's in the school lobby, our plan would have been foiled like the Fire Nation's siege of Ba Sing Se. The next issue would have been being in the wrong place at the wrong time, as other kids, including kids like Casey and Edwards, were still trying to escape, and if the assistant principal or any teacher spotted them, as they already knew who to be on lookout for in the 9th and 10th grade, as specific kids would be trying to escape, they would spot us as well. And since we have such a short time window to escape, with only 5 minutes in between periods, if caught, like the school lunches, all of this would go straight down the toilet. We came to the conclusion that in order for our plan to work, we would need to wait for a huge crowd to form as people pass in the school lobby, just to give the school staff enough of a distraction for us to enter. And a bonus on top of that is to follow any 11th or 12th graders as an extra layer of protection. But how does this look in practice? Here's how it turned out. After the end of our digital arts class, walking to the school lobby, all of us stood right at the blind spot of the corridor. All of us were extremely nervous, as somebody had to go first to test this plan out. After a moment of silence, I took off while the others watched me, walked right towards the desk that had the sign-out sheet. I darted my eyes slowly, but the school staff didn't say one thing when they saw me, and the others saw that and would slowly follow after. All things were good until I approached the sign-out sheet, as two 11th graders actually noticed me, and when I was pretending to fill out the sheet, I heard an audible "what the" from the guy on the right. I dropped the pen on the sign-out sheet, nothing written on the paper, and began walking as fast as I could, passing a few security guards as they said nothing to me. As soon as I got out of sight of the guards, I bolted to the doors after opening them and began to quickly speed walk to the end of the block, only to be greeted with Carlos and Lee, who ran up to me. Then I decided to peek on the other side of the building and nearly jump scared myself as I noticed one of my teachers was walking down the road. So we decided to take the long way to the train station as we left hysterically running across the street. We were free. What was your first time like sneaking out of school? And tell me what you'd like to see next. Remember to leave a like and subscribe, and check out this video on your screen. See you next time in the sanctuary.